Hi, I'm Daniel and I'm a Berlin-based content creator, and in this video I would like to talk about the iPad and the reason why I actually don't use the iPad as my main computing device. So if you're up to date with YouTube videos around Apple as well as some articles and blogs, you might be familiar with the whole movement when it comes to using an iPad as a primary computing device. And I myself listen to a few podcasts that are very iPad-centric. For example, Adapt, Connected and App Stories, all featuring Federico Vitici, who also runs a website called Mac Stories, where him and many other creators talk about using an iPad as their main computer and how they get things done on it. And listening to this podcast, as well as reading some articles and watching some videos on YouTube, I got thinking if iPad can be this device for me as well. So a few months ago I got an 11-inch iPad Pro together with a smart keyboard Folio. It's not the Magic Keyboard, it's just the Folio keyboard. So after I got it, I started pushing myself to do more things on it and use it for more things than just browsing internet or watching YouTube. And I think it's not for me. So let's dive a little bit deeper into the topic and talk about some of the pros and cons of using the iPad and what is still much better on the Mac or even on the PC. So first, I would like to talk about things that I truly like about the iPad. And I think there's quite a lot of them, but my favorite overall is the design and overall hardware. And I think that iPad's hardware is way more into the future than the Mac. If you look into the current Mac lineup, it's not really that innovative or interesting. Maybe one of the most recent additions was Touch Bar that was supposed to make it more modern, let's say. But to be honest, I don't really find the Touch Bar that useful, and I think many other people also don't. And actually, I just use Magic Keyboard with my MacBook because I don't find it useful at all. But going back to the point I wanted to make, I just find iPad's hardware to be one of the best designs of Apple in past, I would say, 5 years. I just love how it feels in hand. I love how light it is. I love how thin it is, even in the case. The edges are also great, and things like stereo speakers and really good camera make it a really good device. There's so many things that Apple got right when it comes to hardware of the iPad, and I wish to see more of them come to the Mac and even to the iPhone, like the edges of the device, which are just amazing and I really like them. Okay, going back to the topic, let's talk about limitations of iPad OS and why they're actually good. So working on a computer, you're mostly working using floating windows. And of course, there's a way to work in full screen apps, but that's not the main way how it was designed to work. On the iPad, it's the opposite. So you're mostly working inside of one app, although you're able to have 2 or even 3 apps on one screen, but your workflow is still mostly focused on one app. And that's something that I actually really like about the iPad, and it allows me to get things done in a very focused and distraction-free way. And that's what makes iPad a great tool for writing, at least for me. And I'm using an app called Air Writer for most of my writing, and it just works amazing on the iPad. And if you're someone who is working in Markdown, I think iPad and the app are a great combo. And as I said before, multitasking is also something possible on the iPad. And to be honest, I find it to be quite intuitive, although there's many people who say that's something that Apple should work on, but I find it to be already quite polished. And just being able to swipe your apps from the dock or slide over and have 3 apps on the screen, it just works for me, and I think that it opens a lot of possibilities when it comes to using multiple apps on the screen and just having interactions in between these apps. And the next big thing about the iPad is of course the Apple Pencil. And if you watch my previous video on the iPad OS 14 beta, you know that I'm not that big of an Apple Pencil user. But there's many things that Apple Pencil is very useful in. And of course you can use it for drawing, you can use it for note-taking, and I do use it quite a lot for note-taking. But what I use it a lot for is photo editing. And one of my most used apps on the iPad is Lightroom. And I just love to be able to sit on the couch, grab the iPad, take the Apple Pencil off the wireless charging on the iPad, and being able to use selective edits with the Apple Pencil. Next thing about the iPad is something that the device was designed for, and that's something that's the introduction of the iPad 10 years ago was mostly focused about, and that's media consumption. And if I think about the way how I use my iPad the most, it's me sitting on the couch or on a poof and just browsing the internet, Twitter, watching YouTube, watching Netflix, or reading articles. And this device is just amazing at doing all the things, and this is the best device to do all of these things. And with the promotion 11-inch screen of the iPad Pro, I find it to be the perfect device for that. And of course there is bigger iPads with almost 13-inch, or there is the iPad mini, but I find the 11-inch iPad to be the perfect middle ground so that I can still get some work done, but I can also consume media. And the last thing I want to add here is that I'm able to use my iPad as an external screen for my Mac. And I think that's especially important for illustrators, since you're able to use an iPad as a tablet for a computer. And of course, you're able to use something like a Wacom tablet, but on the cheaper models, you don't have the live preview. So if you want to use your Wacom as an external screen, you have to spend a little bit more money. And for that money, you can just buy an iPad and use your iPad as a tablet. And it works really well, especially if you rely on a cable connection. You can also use it wirelessly via Wi-Fi, but I found the wired connection to work the best in my case. And I do not use it for drawing, I use it only as an external screen, but even that works great and I never had trouble with that. And it's just one more thing about the iPad that makes it a really good companion. Okay, so all of the above is the things that iPad is good at. But what is still missing in iPad? So first of all, iPad got its own OS last year together with iPadOS 13. But it's still based on iOS and many of its limitations. For many kinds of tasks, you'll sooner or later encounter some kind of problem or limitation coming with the platform. And most likely you'll be able to find some kind of workaround. You'll be able to create a shortcut, or you will find some app that will do the thing that you want to do. But it's always about finding these workarounds, and it can get very tiring very fast. And some things on the Mac literally require just one click or using one feature of macOS, but on the iPad, it will require you to do way more steps to get this one simple thing done. And there's many examples here, but I can add one as a podcaster. So I use a USB microphone that's connected to my Mac. And for me, the recording workflow is quite simple. I'm using Skype to have a conversation with my co-host, and then I'm recording the conversation using Audio Hijack. And Audio Hijack is recording both my voice and it's also recording the Skype track onto a separate file, so that I have two separate files that I can sync, and in case my co-host microphone doesn't work or something is wrong, I can just use the recording from Skype. And if I would like to do the same on the iPad, that's not possible, because if I would connect the same microphone to the iPad, that would work. That would work without any problem. I can connect all of the same USB-C accessories to the iPad and most of them will work. With an exception of Thunderbolt 3 devices, because iPad doesn't support Thunderbolt 3. If I will open Skype and audio recorder, I won't be able to use them at the same time because iPad will give me an option to use only one of them. And of course, there is a workaround for it, but it literally requires an external audio recorder. And in my case, I'm quite lucky because the microphone that I'm using is Samsung Q2U, and this microphone offers both USB and XLR cable connection. So that I can, for example, plug the XLR cable to an external recorder and then plug the USB cable to the iPad, and then I can plug headphones to the microphone because it also has a headphone jack. And with all of that, I will be able to have a Skype call on the iPad and then record using the external recorder. But on the Mac, I simply just plug the microphone, I open Skype, I open QuickTime audio recorder, and that's all. And there is many other cases like this where you have to find some sort of workaround to get something done on the iPad. And it's just not the type of experience I would like to have when I want to get some work done. And you can find many of these different limitations in different pro workflows. And for example, if I would like to edit a video in LumaFusion, I'm not able to do it using an external drive. And of course, I'm able to plug an external drive to my iPad and then import the footage and then edit the footage that was imported onto my iPad. But I cannot simply edit the video that's on the hard drive and then have it only on the hard drive. I have to use my iPad's internal storage. And in my case, with 64 gigabytes of storage, that's simply not possible. And of course, I can just buy an iPad that has more internal storage, but on my Mac, that's of course not a problem, and I can simply edit a video from an external drive. So to summarize, I think that the question if the iPad is the right device for you is the question if you want to struggle getting rid of these limitations and finding workarounds to your workflow. But of course, not everyone will run into these limitations, and some people may find iPad to be way better than Mac for certain kind of things. So for example, if you're an illustrator, if you do a lot of notes, the iPad is the perfect device for you, and you cannot simply do these things on the Mac, at least not without an external hardware. Because you have Apple Pencil and you're able to do many of the same things that you're able to do on the Mac on the iPad, but as I said, you'll run into smaller or bigger limitations of the platform. So I think that overall iPad has the future and it's a computing device for many people out there. But it's not a device for every kind of professional workflow. And I don't want to get anyone upset with this video, I'm just sharing my own experience. And I think that if iPad is a device that suits your needs just fine, then it's amazing. And I'm kind of jealous because I find iPads, as I said again in the beginning of this video, to be much better hardware-wise than the Mac. And it's just way more exciting to use. It's just not the device for me. And I think that's totally fine if it's not a device for you. And I think that in this technology sphere, we always forget that there is solutions that are better for certain people and solutions that are better for other people. Same goes to if you like Android more than iOS, and that's fine. Some people just like Mac more than they like iPad OS. So yeah, let me know in the comments down below if you're more of an iPad person or if you're more of a Mac person. Let's just all come together, talk about our favorite workflows, and let's just stop fighting which platform is better, because every platform has its benefits and limitations. So if you enjoyed this video, remember to subscribe to this channel, and yeah, see you in the next one.